I have to read this part. I thought about leaving it out, but she's the mother of Emma, the coolest kid I've ever met. A round of applause for Emma, please, everyone. Come on. And she's also the top contender for the funniest description of the sessions at this WordCamp, probably. If you didn't see, check it out later. What I can say for now is that I'm very curious to understand what are the overlaps between strange boyfriends and Google.
Stick around, you'll find out.
Okay. A round of applause, please, everyone. Mahi, Charlotte, José.
Thank you. I guess I need this. Good afternoon. So, yes, my name is Marie, and I'm the editor-in-chief at Expatica. I'm also the editor-in-chief at Souffrance et Travail, which is a French website that covers questions like burnout. And wait, I have to do this so you can see my face twice. We focus on workers' rights and on labor rights. So I have about 2 decades of experience making humongous mistakes with content strategy and SEO and SXO and AEO and EAT, and I'm here to share them with you. And I will try to help you turn your content strategies into beautiful love stories. Our job as content writers is pretty much like being in a throuple, right? On the one hand, we have our audience, and we very much hope that they'll love us. And on the other hand, we have search engines, and that's more a marriage of convenience. But we have to make that triangle work. So what I'd like to say is that your goal cannot be to please Google. It cannot be to drive conversions. It cannot be to increase traffic. It has to be always to please your reader. If you do anything else, it'll lead you astray. So today I'm going to give you tips on how to show off your expertise and how to fulfill your visitors' expectations. And of course, I'll put that in context with all the acronyms. So in the end, I think that what you'll see is that if you do right by your reader, because that's what search engines also think they want to do, it all comes together and your content should be successful, also with rankings. We don't have to love search engines, but we certainly have to work with them. And it's been exhausting in the past few years because the algorithms change every 5 minutes. And now we also have to please the gods of ChatGPT, so we don't really know what's going on. But I remember when it was simple and SEO was just a matter of keyword stuffing. It was very mechanical. I come from the world of print, and I kind of hated it. I thought it was a style killer. Yoast was always, add more transition words. I was like, just shut up, Yoast. Now I say that, but Yoast is actually a great tool. And in the end, it's taught me that writing is not an exercise in vanity, it's a service. So in the past couple of years, the evolutions of the SEO standards, they've only emphasized that it is a service, because every algorithm since the Helpful Content Update of 2022 has really just aimed at improving the standards for improving user experience. So much so that they actually invented this new acronym. From SEO, we went to SXO, Search Experience Optimization. And in fact, what we'll see is that all this has paved the way for AI. AI is not just a technical revolution, it's a massive cultural shift that we're in the middle of. With Gemini, for example, Google is transforming from a search platform into a conversational platform. And the new generations, they don't even use search engines anymore. They're on ChatGPT, on Perplexity, on DeepSeek, they're on Reddit, they're on TikTok. It's another problem altogether. So they've invented another new acronym, AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. It's been a confusing time. Honestly, at first at Expatica, we really didn't know what was going on. And it was like, oh, new standard, and now add some more EAT. We're like, we do what? It was kind of like trying to steer the Titanic away from the iceberg without seeing the iceberg. But suddenly, at some point last year, it kind of all came together and it made sense, and we realized, oh, that's what they're trying to do. They're actually trying to help the reader. Okay. And we realized that our content was all the better for it. So What's behind all that? It's kind of interesting to know a little bit more about the technology to understand what our mission is that search engines don't scan your text for keywords anymore. They use large language models, LLMs, and machine learning to understand your content through context and semantics. Semantics is kind of like keywords, but on steroids. And this evolution towards context is very interesting because it's more intelligent, it's more empathetic. Somehow it's kind of mimicking humans. I think for us writers, it's a lot more comfortable in that world than in the one of keyword stuffing. But what does it mean? Does it mean that keywords are not important anymore? No, of course not. It means that keyword density isn't the holy grail anymore, but keywords still matter for two reasons. The first one is that they add to the semantics that the LLMs use to understand your content. So that's very important. But for you, while you're doing your keyword research, it's also extremely important because then you get indicators on not just what your audience is searching for, but also why and how. And this matters more now. Another really important thing is EAT, experience, expertise, authority, trustworthiness. It kind of feels like another metric, but if you zoom out, it's actually key. Of course, readers want to get accurate information, and of course, that's what search engines should be pushing at the top, especially because the web is now full of your money, your life content, which is quite a matter of life or death sometimes. There's medical advice, there's financial advice. So whatever you're writing about, you must demonstrate your expertise and your trustworthiness. EAT kind of measures your ability to provide readers with a reliable answer to their questions. So here's what you have to focus on now: the relevance of your content, its intent, its quality, your EAT, and the usability of your page. I'm going to take you through my process step by step. It looks kind of intense, but it's not once you get used to it. I had a lot to say about this, about business models, but when I practiced this presentation, I went way over time, so I cut it. But I'm going to leave the info in the slides and kind of give you the gist. Long story short, defining your identity is very important, not just once when you start out. It's an ongoing process because you have to remain relevant. You have to adapt to all the new algorithms and also to the reader's whims. Websites are kind of like people. They evolve, they grow, they need therapy. So first you zero in on your business model. Who are you? What is your niche? You define that. Next, you figure out who your audience is. It's kind of like going through a dating app. You can swipe right a million times and get an ego boost, but really what you're looking for is the love story, right? You can use some information that you gather from your stats. It's not crazy detailed, but it's kind of handy, for example, to know their location because then you know what language you have to write in, or to know their gender and their age because then you know what kind of language to use, like vocabulary, like your tone of voice. Third, you check your competition very thoroughly, and you figure out what you can do better than them. And finally, you decide what your voice is, and you make a style guide. Style guides are very important because consistency is important for your authority. Okay, now that we know who we are, we need to ask ourselves more questions, more pointed questions about the relationship between our content and our readers. First, you need to figure out, does anybody care? Usually you'll know from common sense if this is a topic that people want to hear about, but you can also use tools like Google Trends to go check it out. The second question is whether it fits your actual audience, because it's not because there's huge search volumes that it means that it's from your demographics. For example, at Expatica, we always have to ask ourselves, is this for expats? And then finally, you have to wonder, does it fit my business model? Like at Expatica, maybe it's for expats, like maybe they would love to hear about new restaurants in town, but we don't do that. What you have to remember is that every time you depart from your identity, you're going to confuse your reader. It's kind of like going on a date and changing personality every time you see the guy. So you don't want to confuse them, and it will also confuse search engines. This is really important, your reader's goal. You have to match your content to your reader's goal. This is kind of a new concept, but in fact, it makes perfect sense. You have to wonder, what does my reader want to accomplish by reading my article? Imagine I'm an expert in French healthcare. I'm super excited about French healthcare, and I want to write a 12,000-word opus about it. Nobody is going to read my 12,000-word opus. People have very short attention spans now. We have an idiom in French. It says, don't drown the fish. So please don't drown your reader. People who Google health insurance in France, they may have different goals. Maybe they want to determine the quality of the French health insurance system. Maybe they want to sign up. Maybe they just want to know the cost. So you have to figure out what goal you're going to respond to. That means refining your topic. You have to keep it targeted. Again, don't write a thesis. So one thing and one thing only. But you also have to treat it extremely thoroughly and with authority. So a lot of this may feel very obvious, but in order to figure this out, it's really good to do semantic research. You're going to gather a lot of keywords and questions and ideas. It's kind of like doing a mood board or a word cloud. And here's a list of tools that you can use. I really like Ahrefs personally. I use that a lot, but I know it's not free, but I recommend it anyway. But my first stop is ChatGPT. He's not my best friend, but it's very handy. And here's a prompt I use to get him to help me. And how do I get this to play? Do I just click? Nope. All right, well, there's a video of ChatGPT just like, can someone do it for me up there? No, they can't. All right, well, it's a video of ChatGPT generating a ton of keywords, entities. I'm not very good at technical stuff, sorry. So you get all this, and it's actually a ton. There's like hundreds of them, and you can't use them all because, again, you're not writing a thesis. But what you do is you sort them out by theme. Actually, ChatGPT offers to do it for you, which is really nice. It doesn't do it right, so you have to prompt it to do it again according to your standards, but that's okay. The next step is to check out search volumes on these terms that you've gathered, the important ones, you know when you see them, so that you can target the right keywords. Keywords with huge search volumes, they're nice, but often they're too broad. When a keyword is too broad, like for example, health insurance in France, Google tends to interpret it as, I want to buy this. So if what you're doing is not selling health insurance, but trying to provide information about health insurance, then Google is not going to send you readers. If that's not what the user wants when they're on Google, they're going to refine their search by adding terms such as health insurance cost, information about health insurance, and that's when long-tail keywords and low-hanging fruit come into play. These have become really important. So as you do your research, you grab them, you write them down. They're important because they offer search engines more context about your content. Another aspect of keywords that's kind of new is intent. So what are you trying to do here? Again, are you trying to give information? Are you trying to sell that health insurance? Google now tries to match a website's intent with a reader's intent. And like I said, lately it's been pushing very heavily transactional intent at the top of the results. So if what you're trying to do is peddle information, it's even more critical for you to really pick the right intent. You can see it in Ahrefs there. Now there's that little label, like I means information, C means commercial. It helps you refine your key phrases. Like I said earlier, people now interact with search engines as if they were at an information booth, and they ask questions. Remember, 10 years ago, I used to make fun of my mom for doing that, and it turns out the boomers had it right all along. You talk to search engines now. So there's a whole bunch of handy tools to figure out what people are asking of search engines, and of course, the first stop is Google itself. You just type in your search term, and you see what shows up, and people also ask. The problem with this is that Google knows where you are. I don't know about you guys, but because I'm in Switzerland, every time I Google something, it gives me all this stuff in German right now, so I can't use it. So a better tool when you're doing this research is stuff like also asked or keywords people use, because you can change the location parameters, and that's very handy. Same thing, these questions, they're very important. Mark them down because you're going to use them in your content later to show that you provide an answer to them. Now you go back to your competition and you take a closer look at the article level. You want to see specifically what your competition, or how my daughter calls them, your rivals, what they're doing specifically on the topic that you're covering. You can use your eyes. They're very nice. They're connected to your brain, and they work well. But there's also handy tools like Site Explorer and Ahrefs. I swear to God, they're not sponsoring me, but they're really a good tool. There you can find your organic competitors, and you can see your content gaps. You can see your keyword overlap. You can check their rankings. This helps you identify your weak spots, but especially theirs. And this is where you blow them out of the water. You pick what you're going to do better than them and what you're going to provide that they don't. Okay, now that you've done all this research, you're going to cluster the information again. You're going to choose a primary keyword. We still do primary keywords. And then you add all the related keywords and the entities and the questions that you've gathered. And once you have these clusters, you see, oh, hey, a bunch of topics that I can write about. It's kind of nice, actually. In the end, it could be like a category on your website. So one very important thing is make sure that they don't overlap. They have to complement each other. There's nothing from this side that should ever be on that other side, because then you cannibalize yourself, and there's really no stupider death than death by cannibalization of your own rankings. Okay, now you've done your research, so you've zeroed in on your topic. Let's start writing. At every stage of writing, just remember your reader. Ask yourself, is this useful for my reader? Does it answer their goal? Is it delivered in the shape that they expect? Is it clear? Is it concise? Is it logical? Does it take them from A to Z? And if it doesn't, do I provide bridges for the gaps, like internal links to another one of my articles or to sources? All right, the first step is the format. By now, it should be obvious what the reader expects. Is it a top 10 list of where to go on vacation? Is it a checklist on how to move? Is it step-by-step instructions on how to open a bank account? Is it a long-format essay? Quick tip, if you suffer from the same affliction I do and you can't never stop writing, you really have to check yourself, because if you're doing a checklist, people don't want to be, again, to see a thesis. You have to make it a checklist. You have to then build the skeleton. So you need a very solid structure where your subject flows logically. And that starts with the title, with the H1. It has to contain your most important keyword, the primary keyword. The intent must be very clear, because the reader needs to know what they'll find while they're there. And also, to indicate that your content is super fresh, I would advise you to add the date. This is kind of, it's not new, of course, it's always been handy to add the date, but it's even more critical now because of AI engines. They really, really care about seeing the date there. All right, the introduction, personally, I just write the same for the introduction and the meta description. You make it short and sweet, 160 characters, the standard. You include your best keywords, try to be descriptive, make it catchy for your reader, and especially give them a good idea of what they're going to find in there. Personally, I write the intro once I'm done writing the entire article, because then I know what's in there. I check the H2s, and that gives me formulas like from this to that, and it's quite handy. Actually, you know who does really great introductions? It's ChatGPT. You feed it your text, and you say, give me an intro with this keyword and 160 characters. It's actually pretty good with that. So, the headers. I have a lot to say about headers. So the headers are a great place to use all the materials that you gathered in your research, all the related terms, the related keywords, the related questions. Please use these questions, use them right there in the header, and then provide the answer right away. Do you remember in math class when you were little and they told you, like, you have to give us your entire reasoning and then the answer? Your dream is finally fulfilled, forget math class. You have to do the exact opposite now. You start by giving the answer and then you give the explanation. That's how you end up in SERP features. So a little bit more like establish time and space, say like in this country, in that year, or in that month. Respect the header hierarchy, very important. It's important for your readers, but it's especially important for search engines and for AI while they scan your texts. And one last important aspect of headers is their anchors. First of all, if you use Yoast, it's really handy. If it generates your table of content, it'll do it automatically. But search engines and AI bots, they use your URL to figure out what your content is about. So you use a few choice terms that are very descriptive, and that helps. All right, now for the meat. Make your content easy to read. Follow your style guide. Always keep your voice steady, because consistency is really important. Again, write short, concise, simple sentences. First of all, not everybody speaks your language. Second, some people are just tired, and they don't want to read your thesis. Also, you're not just writing for readers anymore, you're also writing for machines to understand you, and they're not too bright. And finally, you also want the translation extensions to be able to translate you easily. Keeping it concise just makes it easy for everyone and everything. But don't dumb it down. Use accessible vocabulary, but don't think people are stupid. Maybe define complex terms. For example, at Souffrance et Travail, I have to use a lot of complicated legal and medical jargon. And I know that our audience is very often people who are going through burnout, so they're not always at their best cognitively. So I use the complex term, the official term, because maybe they'll want to Google it later, and that's important for them. And then I vulgarize, I simplify the explanation. And it's the same thing with foreign sources, which we do a lot of at Expatica. We want to put in the local word, because again, people may want to Google it, and it's also good for SEO. So. All right, back to EAT. Show off your expertise everywhere. This is where you need to shine and share what you know. Make it clear that you're offering exclusive content. You must send signals to the reader and to search engines that what they're going to find is the words of a specialist, not something that you've parroted from something that you've read somewhere else online. Exercise your critical thinking. Your knowledge of a topic allows you to connect dots. It allows you to be analytical. From your expertise, you can draw conclusions, you can share valuable insights, you can even share your opinions. Use a byline, add your biography, always. Don't shy away from labels such as pro tip, insider tip. Do we have enough of my face on there? It's so weird, but anyway. And if you're not an expert yourself, cite one. But call them, interview them, and quote them, because that's not online there. Again, this is really important, exclusive content. So it's great to share your expertise or some other guy's expertise, but it's even better to support it with high authority data. Preferably use government and eminent websites as much as possible, because it shows your accuracy, it shows your transparency, and it shows your trustworthiness. The data cited in your content, you have to keep it up to date. This is more and more critical, so you have to stay on top of that. You have to update that information regularly. Content freshness is really one of the huge metrics now for your rankings. That takes us to guidelines on linking. I also have a lot of things to say about linking that's also really important. It's important because it helps your reader and search engines put your content into context. Each link on a page sends signals on the way that you position yourself and position what you've written on that page in relation to the other pages of your site and in relation to the rest of what's on the internet. So rule number 1, remember that every link you place is going to send people away. So be very, very discerning. Don't link like crazy. Just really keep it to what's helpful. Rule number 2, needless to say, do not link to your competition, ever. It's great to connect your content to itself, so to do internal linking, but you also have to do that, not to please search engines and give yourself your minimum amount of internal links like some metrics want you to do. No, you have to continue being driven by your reader. So be helpful. Link to other pages of your site only when it's relevant. Stay on topic because, like I said, your internal links are also context signals on what your page is about. So it's best to only link to pages that are on related topics. For example, if you're writing about child benefits, don't link child to an article about what to do with your kid on the weekends, because that's completely unrelated. And finally, I wouldn't recommend linking too early in your copy. Don't send your readers on side quest when they've just arrived. It's better to do something like maybe a useful resources section at the end. An important and often overlooked aspect of links is their anchor text. And again, these are context signals. So don't use generic anchors. Don't link on read more, read on French doctors. It's better if your anchors are, sorry, can hear myself, it's kind of weird. If they're descriptive so that your readers know where they're going. Never use the same anchor twice to send people to 2 different destinations, because that is very confusing. Use the primary keyword of your other content to link to it. That's really, really good signals for search engines. And finally, if you're using one of the keywords of your current content to link out, then you've, again, done something really, really wrong. The layout. I don't know about you, but when I write, then I kind of read it to myself in my head to make sure that it's understandable, legible, that it's pleasant to hear for my readers. But it's also extremely important to look at it. And it's important to look at it on desktop and on mobile. Things get crunched up really easily on mobile. People will get really put off by large walls of text, so please air it out. Make your content very easy to read visually. Use WordPress's blocks, because that's what they're for. Thank you, WordPress. Limit your paragraphs to 4 or 5 lines. Add images, photos, graphics, illustrations. It also helps rest your reader's brain. Remember your alt texts. Make bullet point lists, make numbered lists. Use tables or columns to display data because it's very organized and it's pleasant visually. Use buttons for important links. And you can also build custom blocks, because that's fun. All of these are very important to enhance your user's experience. But on the technical side, and this is critical, there are structured data. Schema markup is really a critical part of your SEO strategy now, because it makes your content more digestible, like much, much easier to read for search engines and for AI bots. So this is how you end up as a source, or in snippets, or in AI overviews. Bunch of other things that send signals about the fact that you're amazing. Include the published date and the last updated date. Again, include an author for every article and a biography. I think I've said it 12 times, but it's so important. It's just to highlight your expertise. Your URLs matter, so the same as the anchors. Your slug should probably resemble something like your keyword. And then usability is very important too. I'm not going to delve into core web vitals now, I don't have the time, but you have to make your page performant and easy to navigate. So don't use large images that take ages to load. Think about the people who are trying to read this on the subway. Don't drive your reader crazy with a ton of pop-ups and banners. And so remove friction as much as possible. All right, my last point is about how to make money off of your website. And I'm going to make this really short because to me now it's obvious. You're going to try and drive conversions the same way you're writing, with your reputation and with your reader in mind. Whatever your sales model is, you have to try to incorporate it within your content as organically as possible. Content marketing, for example, which is what we do at Expetica, but I've kind of nixed that. I said, no, we're not doing that because it looks like an advertorial, and then people lose the trust that they have in your content in 2 seconds when it looks like an ad. So you have to not depart from your objective position, or not look like you're departing from your objective position. What you can do is plug the goods and services that make you money by presenting them as advice, something helpful for your reader. For example, like a list of providers within your text, or a directory listing. It stays aligned with your reader's intent, and that matters a lot. If it sounds like the advice that they have come to get from you, then you've done your job right. I think that's how it should be, really, selling things in general in life. So this closes the circle. Your priority is to keep your readers' needs as your focus. Your readers, your one true love. You want to provide them with quality content that answers their questions with expertise, with empathy. You want to make it engaging, you want to make it user-friendly, and keep it up to date. If you do that, search engines and AI platforms will hopefully love you too. The one effort you really have to make for them is in the schema markup. But the beauty of using WordPress or plugins like Yoast is that they do the structured data job for you in the background. Again, thank you, WordPress. So, A friend of mine designed this for me. It was really nice. So quality content, it ranks well with search engines. That brings you visitors who will like you and trust your information. They'll be more likely to buy whatever you're selling, which will please your commercial partners who are going to send you big fat checks. And then there you are, you're happy, you're proud, you're rich. But I'm not going to end on that happy note. Am I done? I have no more time? Can I have 1 more minute? Okay, cool. Because we're living in a really strange time right now, and we're all content writers here, and we're all feeling the angst, right? We're competing with machines, and it's not a nice time. AI, it's a great tool, but it's not our best friend. It thinks it can deliver information better than we can. It can't, not yet anyway. But it doesn't matter because people don't care, and they use it all the time anyway. So it is very important that you deliver information that it doesn't have. And that means, that's why I've been talking about exclusive content. You have to bring something new to the table, and you have to make sure that your authority, your expertise show in there. But especially, I think that what we have to use is our big, beautiful asset is our ability to put ourselves in our reader's shoes. That's what we have that it doesn't. So that's my final, very dark, ominous word. Before I thank you for your time, I wanted to give props to Dan Awesomes because he's my SEO mentor and he's taught me pretty much everything I know. And these are the ladies I work with at Expatica, and a lot of their work is in there, and I wish that they were here with me. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for bearing with me.